behalf of Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, we welcome you all for the exclusive session on the future of work, addressed by Mr. Jairaj Nair, who is the COO of Mikro Grafeio. The session is organized under the aegis of Human Resource and Women Empowerment and Leadership Expert Committee of the Chamber. Thank you all the participants for making it convenient to join on this special session. The Chamber acknowledges the support of Mikro Grafeio for sponsoring this session. Especially, we acknowledge the support of Mr. Nandan Bhatia, who is the Director Enterprise Sales of Mikro Grafeio, for structuring the session. Thank you very much, Mr. Nandan Bhatia. The Chamber acknowledges the annual sponsorship of the events by our member organizations, Bueller, Fundramax, Wipro, MTR, and Sona Group of Companies. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Lavanya Pasishia, who is the co-chair of HR and Women Empowerment Leadership Expert Committee and who is the COO of Zivame, to take it over from here. Over to you, Lavanya.
Thanks, Rupa. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking out time and joining us in a very interesting session. This is obviously a continuation of the series what we are doing. About 2 weeks back, we heard Mr. Nandan talking about how to kind of promote employee wellness and what is that the employer can do around it. You know, in continuation of that, as the working environment across us has kind of changed, I would not even restrict it only to working. I was just talking to Jairaj, you know, the kids have kind of changed. They have adapted digital as a medium of education so well. So, the life has obviously changed post-pandemic, right? Post-pandemic, the life is not the same way how we were kind of operating prior COVID. So what does it mean for organizations? So what are the new trends of working which has kind of emerged? Is it hybrid, or is it going to be we go back to like full-fledged working? Is it going to be a 4-day working, or we can completely switch over to work from home? So the organizations have to kind of evaluate what works best for them and build their strategy around it. You know, like there are companies who are kind of coming back and saying that we will just do about 4 days a week working. People are talking about 3 days compulsory in office. Organizations have also accepted certain roles to be completely work from home, which actually helps them to save the seat cost. So what does it mean? Are all these trends are going to be temporary, or they're going to be permanent in nature? What does it mean for the organization in terms of the cost, whether these are the avenues? Does it mean they will get different talent than what they were looking at it earlier? So what does this change mean for them, and how do they kind of adapt and include this as part of their culture, and how does this impact the decision making strategically? To just talk about that, I'm going to invite our speaker for the day, Mr. Jairaj Nair. He has had distinguished career in banking and ITES for over 27 years and has worked in Standard Chartered, ABN AMRO, and iGate Global Solutions, Emphasis, to name a few. Earlier this year, he joined Mikro Grafeio. It's an integrated workspace, workforce, and essential service provider, which has the motto of empowering non-metro economies by disrupting the urban heavy workspace ecosystem. This is a very interesting concept, I think. So the government is also looking at how to develop smart cities, and I think so Mikro Grafeio, you know, has the same thought process and can play a very important role around it. Jairaj believes that essential plumbing for achieving high growth in our non-metro towns is and will be important over the next decades, and you will see this change really coming in the near future. So he wants to be part of this journey, and we are really looking forward to hearing his thoughts about how this change will impact the corporate and what the corporates have to kind of look out for. Over to you, Mr. Jairaj.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lavanya, for that wonderful introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jairaj Nair. I am COO of Mikro Grafeio Services Private Limited. Lavanya did introduce Mikro Grafeio, very succinctly. I will just take one more minute to say what we are and what we believe in. Right? We are a social impact zebra startup. Now, that's a very interesting concept. What is a zebra startup? Zebra startups are not there to disrupt the market and to create like 1 million customers in 6 months to get huge valuations and so on and so forth. We are here because we believe in a cause. We are here because we want to grow in a normal market, achieve profitability, and demonstrate it over a period of time. So it's basically what zebra stands for, right? Black and white. We want profit, but we also want to support a social cause. So our social cause, as Lavanya laid out very nicely, is to grow our tier 2, 3 and rural centers socio-economically, right? So I will come to that in the later part of the presentation, but let me start off with future of work, right? Well, this is an evolving space. Nobody can say for sure what is this future of work. And if I were to very categorically state that this is how the future of work is going to be, then in the old-fashioned Greek way of saying it, it will be called the way of the fool, right? Like fools venture in where angels fear to tread, kind of thing. But we have experienced the past 2 years. We know what is evolving, and there is a huge amount of research which I have looked at over the past 10 days to put this presentation together. So I believe this is the way it is going to evolve, and future disruptions and black swan events like the pandemic that we experienced in 2020 might happen. But at this point of time, I believe this is how it's going to look, and I'll share that with all of you over the next say 45 minutes or so, and then we can discuss it in a little more detail. Let me please know whether you can see my presentation, and once I have an okay from somebody, I will.
Yes, Mr. Jairaj, we can see your presentation. You can put it in the presentation mode.
Is this good?
No, it's you just need to put it in the presentation mode, the cup below.
One moment. This one. Yeah, is it good? Can you switch off that voice from that? Yeah, thank you so much. So, what has the pandemic evidence, right? Let me go back to Q1 2020. We were all going about our lives in the usual hubbub that we have. Taking a personal example, right? I used to work for a large ITS organization where I was chief of delivery for a few large accounts, including the largest bank in the world. And we were providing, mortgage services to this particular bank, and to other North American banks. I was providing, front end, back end services, and so on and so forth. Life was going on. My workers, my staff were coming to office in cabs. They were getting, they would come in, they will put up their wallets, their phones in secure lockers. and they will go into so-called ODCs, right? Offshore data centers. This, one moment, please. Okay. They would go into the ODCs and these ODCs are what we call securities of a government mint, right? No paper can go in, no smartwatch can go in, nothing can go in except the agent who has to perform the work. And then somewhere in China, Wuhan, a virus was released, and all our world turned topsy-turvy. We moved from this kind of a very, very secular, nice arrangement into a very, very unknown. What I was saying is that SARS-CoV-2 virus happened in China, and our world turned topsy-turvy, right? Suddenly, everything changed, and this government mint-like security ODCs became defunct, right? Everything moved to the employee's home, and as desktops and whatnot, and work started happening from there. Let me also, one thing in the preamble I should have covered is that this future of work presentation is basically limited to the services sector. It's not about what's happening in the agriculture or the manufacturing sectors. It's only about services sector. So I'll focus on the services sector. So what were the new realities that were what the pandemic evidenced? That work need not happen from office or or ODCs. All work, and even high-end PII data work in banking can also happen from home. And when I say home is not necessarily the last occupied accommodation in any of our tier 1 cities, Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, or Hyderabad. It can be anywhere in the country. It can be in Mulbagal, it can be in Mysore, Mangalore, Dharmapuri, Salem, Purulia, Brahmapur, Ranchi, Kakinada, Anantapur, Medinipur, wherever. So that was the first reality that the pandemic evidenced. That this massive office spaces that occupies our tier 1, 2, 3 cities are not necessarily the only places work can happen from. Okay. What are the other realities that came forth or that was evidenced during this last 2 years of the pandemic? That after working from their homes remotely for the past 2 years, employees are really reluctant to come back to work, or come back to work as in they're working already, come back to office, this space called office. Because a large proportion have relocated to their hometowns, and they see that there is a massive decrease in the living expenses while they are drawing the same salaries. There's a better quality of life. There are absolutely no commute. All of us in Bangalore are aware of the massive amount of time we waste, the fuel we burn, the pollution we emit in our commute to work every day. Like I came to office today, it took me 1 hour, 15 minutes. Imagine the impact on my mental well-being of driving in these conditions day in and day out. So employees who have relocated or gone back to their villages or hometowns see that they don't have to spend the time in commute and undergo the stress that commute gives. They are living with their family. There are uncles, aunts, parents, people all around. The kids are taken care of. They don't have to worry about putting the kids in creche or sending them to preschool or whatever. The health is better air quality and whatnot, and basically, in short, the mental well-being is better where they are working from. That's one reason why a large percentage of them are reluctant to come back to work. So if you look at the Indian market, right, and this is a NASSCOM BCG report which most of you would have seen, which was published this Monday on 6th June. They want only 5% of the techies want full-time office. The rest are reluctant to do full-time office. And here the operative word or the word to note is full-time, right? Whereas the US market, and this is data from the US market, the 80% of the leaders, CEOs there want their employees to come back to work, while only 10% are interested in returning. Now this is 500 basis points better than India, but still it's a very low proportion of the active workforce which wants to come back to office. And of course, our well-known, well-liked maverick is there, Mr. Elon Musk, who wants 100% of all employees to work from home, and he has tweeted just last week that anybody who's interested in working from home must spend 40 hours in office. So these are the new realities. There is the leadership, the organization which wants people to come back to work, if not 100% like the outlier, Tesla, but some proportion to be working from office. And there are the employees who are very reluctant to come back to work. Very minor. 5% Indian IT, ITS workforce wants to come back to work. Come back to office. When I say work, come back to office. So what are the other realities that this kind of I would say a very unhealthy or healthy, whichever way you want to look at it, tension brings forth to the workforce and the organizations that employ them. One is there are definite upsides to working remotely. As I already mentioned, there is commute time, there's a cost of commute, there's a cost to environment. Basically the productivity loss that goes in spending 2 hours, 3 hours up and down from home to work, that is gained. For the employees, the cost of living has come down drastically in tier 2, 3 rural areas, because they don't have to pay rent. The electricity cost and the travel cost has gone down. They feel better physically, mentally, because of being with family. And for single folks who work out of urban centers, there is less loneliness that they suffer. Other benefit that is accruing is that, the differently abled population, which is qualified and which has limitations of working from office, can actually be tapped into by organizations to enable them to start working. That's one. Second, housewives, retired folks, part-timers, a large workforce which is untapped because of the norm of working only from office, can be tapped into. So these are the upsides of remote work that we all know. Now, what are the downsides? The biggest to me is, because as per me, to my mind, is the fact that company culture or social capital is dwindling very fast. Now, I'll spend some time on what I see as social capital, but company culture, we all know what that is, right? It's losing out in this remote work environment. We all have learned our jobs from seniors in our first jobs, and as we grow in our roles and our careers, we learn continuously from our seniors. That is something that is missing because of the lack of the informal touch or the regular in-person interactions. Understanding company and colleagues, very obvious. Then, when in remote work, there is no fixed focus hours, right? Like I'm today in office. The moment I enter office, the moment I leave, typically for a large portion of, not for leaders and managers, but for a large portion of workforce, there are fixed working hours, the fixed focus time where they have to contribute to the company. That's gone out of the window. We are all working longer hours from home, and there are no fixed hours. It can be, early morning, late night, midnight, as work calls and as, demands arise, we have to spend that hour. And because there is nothing else to do, people spend longer hours at work. Then the fatigue of working only on a system, a desktop, without human touch, get-togethers, bonding, and so on and so forth, is really taking a tool. I was telling Lavanya that I will be today talking about my son. My son is, he graduated from RV College of Engineering, and he entered the workforce in, late 2020. He's been working for close to 1.5 years now, and when I see him, he was onboarded remotely. His laptop, 2 laptops, one for the company and one for the client, reached home. He was, as I said, onboarded remotely, trained remotely, and he's been working remotely since then. So 1.5 years. And, me, old-fashioned, guy, old, I would say 27 years in the industry, I feel a little sad when I see him in that, I see what all he is missing out on. He is missing out on the office environment. He is missing out on the water cooler talk, coffee breaks, get-togethers, company events, all of that, which builds, social capital, which basically is defined as a company culture. That is, he will take time to acquire. He will take time to learn, understand, and so on. That's one. Second is, we all know that in the real world, work happens out of relationships, working relationships. You have relationships with your boss, your team, cross-functional teams, right? So when I go to work, I get to meet not only my team, my boss, my team members, but I also get to meet people in sales, marketing, operations, finance, admin, and so on and so forth. And there is an informal bond of working for the same company, and close friendships that develop. Those are missing. If this working relationships can deteriorate with your direct team, imagine what working relationships will be with cross-functionals or non-direct teams. So that's another downside. Also leading to digital isolation. Again, I mentioned about it. No human touch, only working on a system. And as I mentioned, my own son, right, young and new workers, they are losing out on a few things, right? When you work from office, they are onboarded, as per company requirements. They're trained. They get the human touch. All of that is currently missing. And once the novelty of this wears off, right, they are going to lose energy. Is again what I feel, right? And what is the way forward? There are the upside. There's a new reality that remote work is here to stay. There are the upsides and downsides of remote work and not working from office. So what does it lead to? What is the future of work? Where are we going? And in this context, as I mentioned at the beginning, right? General trends, industry thought leaders, worldwide HR and other leadership, they're all coming together to basically point the way forward as hybrid work, and which I call the great reshuffle, right? We were in a complete work from office environment to a completely remote environment. Both have advantages, disadvantages. How do we reconcile the two, and how do we move forward with that? And that is where hybrid work comes into play. TCS, the largest IT organization in the country, is late 2020 itself. They, if I recall correctly, they announced a 25 by 25 program, which basically that only 25% of their workforce will work from office by 2025. They announced it like 1.5, 2 years back itself. Every other organization is coming together to now say that future is hybrid. It will not be completely remote. It will not be completely in office. And here are some statistics of people who are like 57% people, and this is not just Indian stats. This is statistics worldwide. That 57% of employees are considering shifting to a remote hybrid model. A large proportions of leaders are already talking about investing in tech and space to redesign meeting rooms to basically make it hybrid friendly. LinkedIn data shows that you're likely to get 3 times more applicants if you say that the work is remote, right? So these are some of the statistics which point very clearly to that we are moving to a hybrid work model. Okay. Now, having established that, that the future is hybrid, what does this mean? What are the models that organizations and leaders will have to basically reimagine, rethink, remodel, and move their organizations towards this kind of hybrid work models? And this, the next few slides, I'm presenting only from a employee point of view, right? As far as the employees are concerned, having experienced remote work and also having experienced work from office in the prior years, there is a new equation to work, right? And that is, I call it the worth it equation. And the worth it equation, the statement is that work is only part of life. And to give some examples, and we have seen over the past 2 years, once the lockdowns were relaxed, people started getting out more often. We saw a surge in luxury cars sale, if you all recall, and that's still going through the roof, right? Not just India, worldwide, people are splurging on the Mercedes Benzes, the BMWs, the Audis, and the Porsches and whatnot. Basically, people have realized that we are all mortal and we have a life to live, and work is only part of life. And to contextualize in the future of work context, basically what it means is that employees are going to prioritize family, personal life, health, and well-being over, dedicating their the prime youth years of their life to working, right? Which was the way some of us, did our work when we started our careers. So, like I already mentioned, people are considering switching to remote. People are considering switching to hybrid. One more item, one more, characteristic is that new generation, right? Including my example of my son I gave, the Generation Z. They are going to look at alternative sources of income also apart from working for an organization, right? So this is something that organizations will have to deal with in the future. It's not going to go away. The age or the days of single employment is in my view is going to wither away very soon. People will look at dual employment, or people will look at part-time jobs. People will look at doing business on the side, and so on and so forth. So for leaders, the challenge will be to create a culture that ensures that all of these are taken into consideration. Employee well-being is top of the agenda. The other one, the people who are most squeezed in the new way of working or in the hybrid models will be the managers, right? They are the ones, the middle layer, who are wedged between the leadership and employees. There are different expectations from the leadership, and there are different feedback and pushback from the employees. So this is something that every manager will have to deal with in the new hybrid model. How do I reconcile and make the way forward to ensure that my organization's priorities are taken care of, my employees' well-being and priorities are also intermeshed together and is moved forward together. Other part where the hybrid model will require employees to come to work for some point, even if not 100%, maybe 25%, as in TCS model, or 50%, and some other organizations model. But the managers, again, those who are wedged between the leadership and people who actually produce on the shop floor or in the ODC, so to say, they will have to make the office worth the commute. So they will have to create agreements and norms within their teams as to, how often we will meet, when we will meet, and why we will meet. And today's workforce is very demanding and very questioning, which is very good. In that, okay, I'm coming to office. I am already delivering the work from home. If I'm coming to office, what is it that we will achieve in office, right? And what is the advantage of coming to office versus 100% working from home? So those agreements and norms will have to be determined, will have to be agreed. It has to be a very democratic setup, and that's the future of work. It has to be a very democratic setup. I can no longer demand that 100% of my workforce be in office for 40 hours a week, 160 hours a month. It's not going to work. Those days are gone. So future of work, new agreements and norms will come into place. I'll just give you an example before I exited Emphasis. We were already large task force was in place to determine the way forward. I was also part of the task force, and we reached a conclusion, or we reached, and this was endorsed and popularized by the CEO, that you can work from anywhere, but collaborate in office, and that is a very important piece. The other changes that I foresee is that flexible work doesn't always. I mean, I already mentioned that when we moved from office work to remote work, the fixed focus hours, that concept went away. So everybody was always on work. I remember, right, in office we use, let's say for example, on average we have 3 meetings in a day. When remote work starts, the entire 9 hours were in meetings, and if you had to get work done, it was outside of those 9-hour meetings. So work started early and finished late, and used to be 24/7. So some data from my research shows that about 250% increase happened in meetings. Time, workday span increased by about 13% worldwide, right? How does the future of work and how do leaders manage this going forward? It'll be through, as I call it, asynchronous working. What does asynchronous work mean? It means that it's non-linear and non-time bound, right? And it's basically focused on goals rather than activities, and it's basically focused on contributions rather than presence. So how do you go about it? You go about it by reducing meeting time. You set clear agenda. You share documents ahead of meeting. You set expectations. This is for leaders, the future of work, right? Set expectations on response. And to combat the digital fatigue, you give breaks during long meetings. You schedule long meetings only during the first hour of the day, like morning 10 to 11. As we in Mikro Grafeio practice that. Every long meeting is only in the mornings. There's no meeting in the afternoon, right? It's a change we have incorporated into our working model. And basically start meetings 5 or 10 minutes after the hour, so that there is that breathing time that everybody gets. So this is in terms of flexible work, models to change, to move away from the always on model. What does it mean in terms of social capital? I touched upon social capital. Okay, what is social capital? I've mentioned it here. Basically, it comes from knowing each other over a period of time. It comes from the goodwill generated through interactions. It comes with helping each other with knowledge. It comes from mentoring your juniors. It comes from passing on your experience, sharing your experience during interactions. And it comes from natural human kindness that comes with familiarity, right? You're always kind to your friends. That needs to be built on. That is one reason why people or organizations have to move back to or move to a hybrid model from the remote only model, right? Because as we all know, social capital is critical to an organization performing better. It reduces turnover, it reduces absenteeism, it helps in innovation, it helps in information flow, it helps in creativity, and it creates an environment of creativity and innovation. So how will this be in the new hybrid model? Because as I mentioned, without this, what's happening, if you look at the other points there, without this, I already mentioned, direct relationships are deteriorating, indirect relationships are vanishing, and young workers and new workers are feeling the digital isolation. They are finding it difficult to get to know the company culture, their colleagues, and in their direct teams and the non-direct teams. Here is where the hybrid model is going to help, right? It will add more in-person meetings. It will have regular one-on-ones with the managers, with colleagues, with other influencers and people who influence and have a say in your work, right? You get to meet them more often and create relationships. One other very important change in the future of work that I foresee is that, like in asynchronous work, right, the reward models will have to be reimagined. The reward models will have to change from only self-contribution. How is Jairaj Nair evaluated in Mikro Grafeio? He is evaluated on the revenue he brings. He is evaluated. I mean, that's the way it was, right? Okay, let me take an example of my previous company. I was rewarded on the revenue I generate, and I was rewarded on the gross margin I bring in, right? These were the two most important things. There are other criteria also, which is your employee satisfaction, your customer satisfaction, your KRAs, all of them be met, but those are not important. What your incentive or bonus depends on is basically revenue and gross margins. Basically, that directly impacts your company's top line and bottom line. In the new world, in the future of work, it will have to change. It cannot be just these very, very financial figures. It will have to be on how you are bringing value to the organization in terms of encouraging cross-functional relationships, how you are encouraging mentoring, how you are skilling your people and other people, how you are basically contributing to the social capital of the organization. That is one change that's already, I think, in flow, and we will see more of that getting actualized in the coming year, where people will be evaluated 360 degrees and not just on the financial goals. Okay, this all of us know, right? We have been hearing about metaverse. In fact, Zuckerberg has changed his company's name itself to Meta. So this is one thing that's going to happen, right? More of the Zoom meetings, the Teams meetings, the Google Meets will, I think, gradually move, or gradually or very suddenly move to a very immersive kind of meetings in the future, where we will all be represented in avatars, and it will enhance the hybrid work models, in that we will feel more tuned to our colleagues, more tuned to our environment, more tuned into the organization. And obviously the Gen Y and Gen Z will be the leaders, and very soon, over the next 2 years, this will be all encompassing. This is the future of work as I see it. So what it means for leaders, what it means is that leaders will have to basically adopt technologies, emerging technologies and AI and automation to basically create collaboration more in the organization, more and more collaboration in the organization. Okay, so having covered, what were the new realities and what it has led to, and what is the future from a go forward from those realities to ensure that the workforce is taken care of in their morale, in their skilling, in their training, in their productivity, in the hybrid models. And what, from a human resource and technology point of view, what needs to be in place? What is the way we can, very simple. Now, all of that, if you distill it down to a simple workable model, what does it mean? It means that you have to create working spaces for the hybrid model to work in tier 2 and 3 cities, where a large portion of your workforce currently is, right? Which means, you can offer co-working spaces in tier 2 cities where the numbers are very small, or you can create satellite offices in tier 2 and 3 cities where the numbers are really big, right? If the organization is only based in Bangalore or Bombay or Delhi, they should look at creating satellite offices in Indore, Chandigarh, Faridabad, Jaipur. They should create satellite offices in Mysore, Mangalore, Coimbatore, Tirunelveli, Vijayawada, and so on. And the model is obviously a mix of home and office. What this also means is that every organization will have to digitally enable this workspace and empower their workforce to work in an uninterrupted manner without loss of productivity and basically enable work from anywhere. I will now play a small clip of the leading technologies that's going to happen in BYOD and cloud PC workstations, right? What we are seeing is that many companies have already gone down the path of acquiring talent in tier 2, tier 3 cities. But what's happening is that since the laptops have to be couriered from their offices in Chennai or Bangalore or Bombay or wherever, there's a loss of productivity or loss of time that's taken to courier it, set it up, and so on and so forth. So one technology solution which is coming into place is cloud PC or workstations. I'll just play a short video on how this is being enabled across India. This is the Microsoft Cloud Solutions leader talking about
large IT customers coming to us and saying, hey, I'm losing billable days, right? Because now during the pandemic, many of my employees have moved to tier 2 and tier 3 cities, correct. And for them cost of living is much lesser there, so they prefer to stay there, and they feel there is no reduction in their productivity. And I need to encourage and support that sort of a hybrid workplace environment, right? So that is where the time taken to ensure that a laptop goes to these tier 2, tier 3 cities, ensuring it is setting up, they lose 10 to 15 billable days. And think of the scale at which they could possibly lose. That's where technologies such as our Windows 365 Cloud PC, where the environment can be streamed down to the employee bringing his own device, or even a thin client, becomes very, very pertinent.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's on remote or cloud PCs and workstations being the new norm. You can hire a person in let's say Kanyakumari, and you ask, how do you onboard that person? You basically, he gets his own laptop. You stream in your organization assets and rules and policies remotely onto his laptop, and immediately make him billable, trainable, or whatever that an organization in Bangalore or Chennai or Delhi or Shimla or wherever can do, right? So that's the future of work. That's how it's going to be. So basically distributed workspace, distributed workforce, and this is where I just want to reintroduce Mikro Grafeio. We are in the space, of providing space, workforce, and valuable essentials to make organizations ready, performance ready in any location, which is tier 2 and tier 3 in India, right? So we have spread about 300 locations. You can work from hotel, you can have campus model, you can have women only centers. We provide talent acquisition services, skill development services, employee engagement and well-being and so on. And we also provide you the ODC or the workspace. We provide you the IT support. We provide you the integrated facility and administration services, which basically enables ITS organizations to start work from anywhere in a 30-day or a 60-day period from the time they decide to set up. And our other product is what we call the Office Plus. So this enables your employees or the organization's employees to work remotely anywhere, anytime, right away. All it needs to do is go to our site berightia.com, select the workspace you want to work out of, type of facility you want, type of basically it can be a hot seat, it can be a work seat, it can be a meeting room, it can be anything else that you would prefer in that workspace in your home. You can select, book, pay, start working from there immediately. So two solutions, one is Office Plus and the other one is curated satellite offices. We have been in operations about 7-8 months now, and in these 8 months we have created about 25 centers in 13 locations across the country for our curated solution, which is a satellite office. We have 1,500 plus partner centers in 300 plus towns across India, where any remote employee can go in and work with all the facilities and the environment of an office. And we basically focus on tier 2 and tier 3 towns because, as I mentioned, we are a zebra startup with a very real societal goal of enabling socioeconomic growth in this towns. And we have given up a very ambitious target of creating about 250,000 new jobs in tier 2 and 3 towns in the next 5 years. So well, that's Mikro Grafeio in brief, and these are my thoughts on the future of work. My name is Jairaj Nair. I'm the CEO of Mikro Grafeio Services Private Limited. With that, I'll stop sharing and pass it back to Lavanya.
Yeah, Mr. Jairaj. Yeah, it's very interesting. So how do you? Okay, I'll probably ask one question, which was like coming to my mind. See, we are all talking about employer giving the option to the employee, saying that to work, say probably in a hybrid, allow them to choose whether they want to work online or offline, right? So we are kind of, so that's the culture which employers are thinking to kind of promote, right? But what from an employee perspective, which is better? Is it the offline working, or is it the hybrid, or is it the online? In terms of keeping career progression in mind, what would your advice be?
So, that's why, Lavanya, I tried to balance out both views, right? As to what are the advantages of working from home and what are the disadvantages of working from home. To my mind, a hybrid model is the best because, as I said, an employee, even if he is, experiencing the great feeling of being with family, with a healthy environment, I'm drawing my full salary, but spending only 25% living at home in my, in the remote working model. There are so many things I'm missing out. I'm talking as an employee. I'm missing out on learning. I'm missing out on skilling and upskilling. I'm learning out on we all talk about synergy, right? When a team gets together and works together, the output is more than the sum of the individuals. So the synergy that comes out of working together in an office environment, the creativity, the innovation that comes of working together face to face, that is missing in only a remote only environment or a working from home only environment. So in my personal view is that a mix is better, where employees go to office, meet up with their teams, their direct teams, their indirect teams, the larger organization, and becomes part of the culture that moves an organization forward, right? And they also get greater chances of upskilling themselves and moving to the next level and becoming leaders in the organization. So it's important that people go back to work, if not 100%, but at least 50% or more. Which is why I also covered the topic of the managerial level, right, between the leadership and the workers getting wedged. They have to form the norms. They have to have a very democratic discussion and agreement within their teams that this is how we will work in a hybrid model. This is the amount of time we'll spend in office, and the amount of time we'll spend in office, this will be the outcomes that we should achieve. And that agreement and norms have to be very clearly agreed and signed on by everybody in the team. And that's going to be the future of work.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with your thoughts. I'm just going to open it for other people for their thoughts, their comments, their questions. Please feel free to type in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask also. Either way works. Okay, one thing, since people are not asking, one more thing I wanted to ask you about is what we didn't touch about is global opportunities, So I think so the larger organizations are looking at global talent and not restricting themselves only to a local talent, So in future of work today, while we talk about competition being very restricted only to a local talent, what I do see is that say like you picked up your son, the younger generation is going to actually compete with the global talent when it comes at least to certain spaces like tech and all that, where people are okay to kind of hire people, from global. So the pool of talent which is available for certain kind of roles has become much global than looking at it only local. As we remove the restrictions of people being available locally, so the access to talent has kind of really changed. The pool of talent is like kind of changed, and companies are looking at, solving that through certain things as how it is available globally. So do you have any thoughts around that?
Absolutely. And Lavanya, that's a great point that you made. I didn't cover it in my presentation, but it's there for everybody to see, right? And that is one research point that kept popping up in all the research that I did for this presentation, that talent is now available anywhere, right? Let's say, for example, let's say Infosys has to hire a very niche skill, a large number of people for a very niche skill in Bangalore. Let's say they wanted, in the earlier era, what would happen is that if this client business is based in Bangalore, all these 500 people have to be recruited in Bangalore, right? So there was a big competition, or rather, in competition in acquiring these skill sets, which meant that they will have to poach from other similar, services providing organization, and the wage bill goes up all over the place because you have to have that 500 people by a certain date to deliver service to a contract they have signed. That limitation is completely gone away. It doesn't really matter where these 500 people are, right? If Infosys hired a person for this niche skill from Delhi, that person had to, kind of disrupt his life. He had to relocate from Delhi to Bangalore and resettle in Bangalore and work for this company. Now it doesn't really matter. You can hire 500 people in 500 locations in India. And why India? You can hire this skill in Czechoslovakia, not Czechoslovakia, no longer. You can hire this skill in Czech or Slovakia or Poland or Hungary or South America, anywhere. So that is a drastic change that has happened in the new work environment. And that's going to be a reality going forward. There will be no location constraints on hiring talent. Talent available anywhere in the world can be tapped into by any organization. Wonderful question, Lavanya. Thank you for asking that.
That was a wonderful session. I loved the concept of social capital. This is Padmaja from Ramaya.
Yes, madam. Thank you for your comment.
That's why, I teach that in knowledge management, how people interact and what are the kind of networks that they develop. So it was very interesting to hear about social capital. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Sorry, my camera. 1 second. I don't know where is I can't enable my camera. I think it has been disabled for me.
No worries.
1 second. I'll just... Yeah, visible, I don't know.
If there are no other questions, we can kind of close. Over to you for closing formalities. I need to really log off. I have another session. So I'm just going to log off. Mr. Jairaj, it was really pleasure meeting you. Over to you, Rupa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lavanya. Thank you, Mr. Jairaj, for this exhaustive session. We look forward to have many more sessions on the subject. Thank you very much once again for your support.
Yeah, thank you, Rupa, Lavanya, and BCIC for giving me this opportunity. It was nice to have met all of you. Thank you for your time. Thank you.